This is 90s and Noughties UK, a podcast on UK pop culture of the 90s and 2000s. If you want to contact the show, email 90esandnoughties@gmail.com, tweet us on @90esandnoughties UK on Twitter, or check us out on Facebook, 90s and Noughties UK.
Welcome to the 90s and Noughties UK podcast for the 15th of February 2021 with me, Jamie.
And me, Hayley.
That's right. Welcome back, Hayley, as guest host once again. And another thing that I thought, I was looking for research for this podcast, and I think you'll be interested in this. Did you know it's the 20th anniversary, 2001, since Hearsay won Pop Stars?
Oh, brilliant. I love Hearsay. They're brilliant. Can't believe it's been that long, though.
Oh, my goodness. No, it's unbelievable, isn't it, how time has flown. And it was the first of those reality shows, like singing things. It
was.
And because there was that one, there was Pop Stars, The Rivals.
That's right, yeah.
The next one after that was Pop Idol.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went on to X Factor after that, yeah.
The X Factor.
Yeah.
Do you remember, what was it called? Soap Star Superstar or whatever it was called?
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of the same kind of thing, wasn't it? But we have to go right back to the beginning. I mean, do you know of the acts that kind of spawn out of that show? There's a couple of them that spring to mind. One of them had a #1 single with Colorblind. Darius, and another one was a group of people that had auditioned for that show and went off to be probably an even bigger band than Hearsay.
Liberty X,
I know, but I was wondering this, like you say Hearsay were great back in the day, and of course their debut Pure and Single was a massive hit. Do you know who sang the original version of Pure and Simple?
Yes, Girl Thing.
And this is one for all you pop pickers at home. Can you name all the members of Hearsay?
Well, we'll have to see if they can or not. But is that a challenge for me if I can name them all?
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
Right, Danny, Noel, Suzanne,
yeah,
Kim, and Mylene.
You got it. Yeah. Those are the names, indeed. Those are their Christian names. Danny Foster, Mylene Class, Kim Marsh, Suzanne Shaw, and Noel Sullivan, all very popular now in their own fields.
Yep.
Because, of course, from memory, I think Danny Foster has done some stage work around. Mylene Class, obviously a very popular broadcaster and musician. Kim Marsh obviously did Corrie. Suzanne Shaw has done little bits and pieces on the stage and in television. And Noel Sullivan's very popular in the West End, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, did you buy that first album?
I don't think I actually bought the album, but I think I bought the singles. Because I was more of a singles person. I used to collect the singles. And it was the second single that I was more of a fan of.
And which one was that?
The Way to Your Love.
Oh, yeah. That was a good, a little bit more sentimental, a bit more sort of,
yeah. I used to like the video. It's like in a sort of like in a field kind of thing, if I remember, next to like a barn or something.
You remember more than me. I mean, they had a TV show as well, didn't they, Hearsay?
Yeah.
Hearsay, It's Saturday, I think it was called.
Yeah, I vaguely remember it, yeah.
I mean, it's bizarre. I don't remember any other winner of a reality like TV show getting a TV show quite like that.
I know. But, I mean, I still remember, like, how big Pure and Simple was. Like, that music video was, like, everywhere at the time. I love the song though, but I love Girl Thing's version as well because I'm a Girl Thing fan. So yeah,
it's a little bit more stripped back, that version. Well, happy anniversary to Hearsay, and long may their individual components continue to flourish in the worlds in which they've now chosen. It was a shame when they broke up, actually. I thought it was a shame.
It was, yeah. And obviously Kim left and they brought someone else in, didn't they? It was a guy. I'm sorry that I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, as I say, happy anniversary to Hearsay now. What time is it, Hayley?
It's Chico time, actually. No, it's time for the main feature, Jamie.
So this is Headline and or Statement, a tentatively titled feature where I read out a statement that I have written to describe a TV show episode, a film, or something else related to the 90s or noughties. Now, I'm going to tell you what it is I am describing. So this particular statement relates to a TV show episode. So in order to get that, you need to guess obviously the TV show and maybe even the episode in which it comes from as well. So this is describing a particular episode, and the statement is this: a group of people welcome a new member to their crew, but not before humiliation by the whole establishment. Let me repeat that once more. A group of people welcome a new member to their crew, but not before humiliation by the whole establishment. Have you got that? Good. I will tell you the answer later on in the programme. So in this week's main feature, I wanted to talk to you personally about a subject which is really close to my heart, and that is the subject of animation. Now, we have spoken about animation and cartoons and stuff on the podcast before. We've spoken about Nickelodeon, Disney, and all that wonderful stuff that came out of those studios and very similar studios during that time period. But what we haven't talked about in great detail is the stuff that came before the 90s and noughties that we were still watching in those decades. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I remember a time when Sky first came along, and I would sit there watching Cartoon Network, and Cartoon Network would stop at a specific time of day and it would go over to TNT classic movies. Now, at that time, it was owned by Ted Turner. I can't tell you if it still is. However, as part of his big empire, he owned the rights to Hanna-Barbera cartoons and other such things. So it formed a huge part of the Cartoon Network lineup. So I saw all of this great stuff from the 50s up to the 80s. And beyond, in some cases, on this stuff, as well as some of the newer productions that were coming out of what was left of the studio, the likes of Two Stupid Dogs, Dexter's Laboratory, Powerpuff Girls, etc., etc., etc. But the stuff from earlier, the likes of the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Scooby-Doo, etc., etc., were a real staple of my childhood. And I know that Scooby-Doo has continued to be aired on CBBC. They aired the 60s series, I think, Infinity. But really seeing those early ones for the first time was a great moment for me. I love the animation of Hanna-Barbera. I love the wit of the scripts, of most of the scripts, before it got a little bit kind of Saturday morning and maybe a tad lazy in places. I love the revolving backgrounds. I just love the vintage thing of it. And I think in my mind, that's probably where my love, I also do vintagey type things. This is where my love of vintage came from, is watching these cartoons. And I've been rewatching The Jetsons recently, actually. And with it being one of the first primetime cartoons up there with the Flintstones, so aimed at an adult audience, I really wasn't aware with just how many kind of adult references and adult jokes were in there, because it wasn't aimed at a child audience, it was aimed at an adult audience. I wasn't aware of that. So yeah, I grew up with those things, and I have a great fondness for them, all their flaws and all. And like I say, there was some great stuff that came out of the studio in the 90s, which was very much inspired by the stuff that came before. I'm thinking of things like Space Ghost, Coast to Coast, if you remember that, and Johnny Bravo as well. Some of those great Cartoon Network shows of that period. But to go back to the Hanna-Barbera stuff, I now own most of it on DVD, and I love revisiting them every few years. And just to think, there are going to be people who grew up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s in the UK and the US. They're going to be saying, oh yeah, but they arrived when I was little. Yeah, but this is what I always say about stuff from before landing in your time, as it were, is it can make just as much of an impact as when it was made. In my mind, it doesn't matter when it was made. I remember a time in the early 2000s when CITV was showing the Flintstones, and to my mind, they were playing the 1960s episodes, maybe from the later series, but they were definitely the 60s episodes. And Top Cat, known originally over here as Boss Cat, was shown on BBC Two for several years or so in the 2000s somewhere. These were still hugely popular shows in this period. And of course in the 90s as well, I think maybe the love for it kind of regurgitated a little bit because of the movies that were made of some Hanna-Barbera properties. The one that springs to mind is the Flintstones, released around 92, 93, something like that. It's a great soundtrack to that. It's sort of a great who's who of sort of late 80s, early 90s stuff. I have great memories of listening to Was Not Was, Walk the Dinosaur, for example. So yeah, I love animation, and it still forms a great part of my life. And I know when I had a guest on here on The Empty Compartment, and we talked about kind of people of yesteryear kind of still having a role to play in kind of modern culture. And one story I think I might have edited out, but I'd have to go back and check, is that, so I apologize at this moment if I'm repeating myself, is that of Mel Blanc, who died in around 1989, and he was the voice of Warner Brothers, another cartoon staple of our childhood, seeing all those 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s Looney Tunes, and he was also the voice of Barney Rubble, and oh my goodness, hundreds of other voices. And he died in 89, but we were still seeing stuff from him into the 90s. He was in the Jetsons movie around 1990 because he'd recorded those tracks in advance. He was inadvertently in the Flintstones movie because they used a track of Dino from the 60s. I assume as well, I'm sure I've read this somewhere, without the permission of his estate, but I think that was later corrected. And he kept appearing on things years after his death, and there were games that were released using the characters that he helped to create through his voice characterizations. And one thing I love is it's the it's that game from sort of 98, 99, Bugs Bunny Lost in Time on the PS1. I loved it, right? And Bugs it's not Mel, right? As far as I can remember, it's not Mel. But there are other characters in there. I think it's Yosemite Sam. They use bits of Mel's voice to bring those characters to life, which is an amazing thing because he recorded all these different voices, all these different phrases, and they just continued to use his stuff kind of in incidental moments like that. And I think that's amazing. I think the other thing to talk about here, as well as Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers, is Disney in the context of those classic films that we saw as children in the 90s, when they used to do those special editions and whatnot, the likes of Jungle Book and Aristocats and, Dumbo, being re-released on VHS, and them kind of being the safe movies that we could watch, because in the era they were seen as safe movies. I remember going to friends' houses and they'd put on things like Robin Hood and Fantasia, and they were great marvels of animation and a huge part of our growing up in the 90s, decades after they were first produced and released. And just as an aside, actually, back in the 1940s, Mel Blanc worked extensively with Phil Harris on the Jack Benny program, and Phil Harris would later go on to voice Baloo the bear and the other bear in Robin Hood, and of course a character in Aristocats as well. So again, these voices echoing down the years, being a part of our childhood in a way that I'm sure at the time that they recorded these things could have never been imagined, because it's years before the arrival of home video and stuff. And now I'm so glad that they're getting releases on DVD and Blu-ray so that we can continue to relive our childhood. And now for a regular feature on the podcast. It's time for celebrity birthdays. And today, our celebrity birthday guesser is radio presenter Tanya. Welcome to the podcast, Tanya. Tell us about the radio station that you work for.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I work for Burgess Hill Radio, a community station in Burgess Hill, funny enough. And I'm currently doing 2 breakfast shows and a mid-morning show, so they're keeping me busy.
Excellent. Well, all the best with that. How is your celebrity knowledge?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, isn't it? I mean, I don't want to say, in case you might change the person, actually. Be careful what I say here. Obviously, some areas I might be stronger than others. We shall see.
Yes, we shall. Now, I'll explain for new listeners, in case you've never heard before. It's basically 20 questions, but I will give little clues along the way, and it's yes-no questions. I can't answer, where they were born or whatever. It's just yes or no. So, Tanya, without further ado, start your questioning.
Okay. Is the person a man?
No.
So therefore, I hope a woman. Is she a singer?
Yes, she has done some singing, yes.
Okay, she has done. Is she an actor as well?
She has done a little bit of acting as well, yes.
Little bit of acting. Is she still successful now, performing now?
I wouldn't say so. I think she's sort of dropped off of the landscape slightly, but certainly in the period in which this podcast is focused, 90s and 2000s, she was certainly active then.
Okay. Is she English, British?
It's funny, you say English, she's not English, but she is British.
Oh, no, I suddenly realised I said that. Okay, so, was she in a girl band?
As far as I know, she wasn't in a girl band. No, she's more famous as a solo artist.
Okay. So, Was she a pop star, would you say?
Well, she didn't start out as a pop star, but I think you could say that eventually she went that way.
Okay. So, British singer, little bit of acting, not big now. This is tough, isn't it? Did she have top 10 songs?
Oh, I think, yeah, definitely. I think they were extremely popular. Certainly her pop material was up there. Maybe her early material, not so much. And I'll give you a slight clue here because I feel like I've already told you a couple of times. She was a child star.
Child star in the 90s and noughties. Mm-hmm. Did she start her career in the 90s?
Yes.
Late 90s?
Oh, yeah. Very, very late 90s. And I will give another clue here. She rose to fame on a talent show.
Oh, was it the X Factor?
It wasn't the X Factor, no, because we're talking about the 90s. It was a show hosted by Jonathan Ross.
Oh, God, I don't think I saw that one. Okay, so she's... Oh, Charlotte Church.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah! I think when you said child star, I was thinking Irish, Scottish, Welsh. Yay.
Yeah.
Got there in the end.
See, that wasn't so hard.
No, it wasn't too bad. I thought, yeah, at least I heard of her.
Well, that's right. And the celebrity, well, obviously, because of the name of the feature, is Celebrity Birthdays. She's celebrating her birthday in the week of this broadcast, 21st of February, 1986, she was born, so she'll be turning 35 this year. So happy birthday to Charlotte Church. Thank you, Tanya, for joining us to play Celebrity Birthdays.
Thanks for having me, Jamie.
So before we go here, let me give you the answer to today's headline and or statement, which today was a TV show episode, and it was this. A group of people welcome a new member to their crew, but not before humiliation by the whole establishment. Well, a group of people refers to the gang at recess, you know, TJ, Gretchen, Mikey, Spinelli, Vince, and, of course, the new member to their crew, which in the episode The New Kid was Gus Griswold, and for being the new kid, he was seen as the new kid, and shown lots of humiliation by the whole school. Hi, new kid. And then at the end of that episode, if you've never seen it, I apologise for ruining it, but at the end of that episode, he basically stands up and says, my name is not New Kid, it is this. And therefore, he's therefore known as Gus Griswold. So well done if from my very vague statement you got that correct. And if you didn't, better luck next time that we play headline and or statement.
Thank you for listening to 90s and Noughties UK, a podcast on UK pop culture of the 90s and 2000s. Please remember to rate, comment and subscribe on your favourite podcast provider. If you want to contact the show, email 90sandnoughties@gmail.com, tweet us on @90sandnoughties UK on Twitter, or check us out on Facebook, 90s and Noughties UK.